Hey there, Adele here, and trust you're having an absolutely fabulous day. Before we get started, grab pen, paper. There is a workbook that goes with this class. I'm keeping it nice, short, sharp, and sweet. However, if you don't have the time to go through it, there is also a way that we can connect and we can do a really quick assessment of your team temperature, like a team temperature check to see where things are happening, about this thing called retention and raising your retention, whether it be from a team that's got some established people, whether it's people that are coming and going. There's a lot of external kind of factors that are currently playing into this thing called retention. And my kind of sweet spot to help people with is the retention under challenging times. So if you are seeking some assistance with regard to a team that is currently under the pump, that has challenges, both internal and external to your business, great conversation to be had. If also you are looking for an edge around how your dynamics could be leading to lesser retention, bigger turnover, then it's conversation for you. If you're looking for something for more on the mechanics side of things, so whether that actually be your recruitment process, your succession planning, your SOPs, your onboarding processes. See how that's a mechanics conversation? The templates to get whomever on Seek to apply for the jobs. That's a mechanics thing. And I am seeing, as a generalization, a lot of businesses put great effort towards the mechanics. What they're forgetting is that there's a dynamic side of things, because we are still human beings. We are working with other human beings. And that dynamic, the strength or the weakness of the dynamics can actually drive or not drive the mechanics. So I think a really good way to kind of put this into perspective is I always give the example of the Dutch football team in the 90s. I can't even remember exactly when the 90s. They had the likes of Johan Cruyff, Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten. I mean, the names were just extraordinary. And on paper, so mechanically, they had the best team ever in the world. But dynamics-wise, they just couldn't pull it together. And so they would never get to the finals, semi-finals of the World Cup football or soccer. So the dynamics is a conversation that we're going to be had today. If it's a mechanics thing, it's not something I can help you with right away. So we're getting out on the table, all good. Just know that the dynamics is going to drive your mechanics. And I'd love for people to see and put more time and effort in towards that dynamics, because sometimes maybe they don't know what they don't know. So maybe write it down on your piece of paper once you get the workbook, that the dynamics is around the culture of the business and of the team. Do they champion each other? What are their relationships like? Can they have honest, genuine conversations? Or are they a bunch of avoiders? A recent Gallup poll did some figures that up to 73% of people said they would stay within a business. So the retention would be up. 73% said they would stay if the culture was more on point. So the dynamics is the culture. Do we walk our talk? Do we look after ourselves? What is our collective mental health like within our group? And that's where the dynamics become such a driver. What are our ethos? What's our team kind of motto? What do we stand for? What is our trademark? And what are the list of behaviors that we deem acceptable or unacceptable within our group? And that's where we're going to play today. So if that's of interest to you, thumbs up. It goes without saying that there are massive costs involved in continually hiring and rehiring. And I'm not saying that you must never hire. That's not, it's retaining that which you think is good on paper, getting the best out of people, because just look at that. The impact to bottom line can be between 30 to 150% of a person's salary if you keep on having to replace that person, especially, I would say, within the first 6 months, because it says that typically, and again, this is from Gallup poll, it can take up to 6 months for a person to be fully competent in the ways of the new business. Now, if you're a smaller business, 6 months is a long lag time. And it was just a conversation I had the other day. One of my clients onboarded a new person. They are in our Elite Edge mastermind. And she wanted some feedback on the person, saying, well, we've onboarded them, we've shown them all this, you know, the SOPs, we've shown them, we've got so many procedures, Adele. I'm like, yeah, I know. And, you know, people are so intent on wanting to get it right. It put her in kind of fight, flight, freeze mode, and I'll share with that a bit more. And long story short is the feedback that the owner was getting, the business owner was getting, is that the person was still a bit stressy. So I was like, okay, so well, what's happening in the dynamics? So you've told me all about the mechanics of what's happened with this person and their onboarding, but what's happened to the dynamics within the team? So that's where we're playing at, because, you know, I said to her, you don't want to lose the person. She's a good fit for the business and the team. Let's work out a plan. So firstly, secondly, or thirdly, how is it that you measure your retention? How are you currently measuring your retention? Is it by purely, you know, like kind of assumptions that you're seeing a lot of new people having to fill positions? Is your turnover high? One of the metrics, one of the ways that you can measure retention is dividing the number of employees who left by the average number of employees who stayed, and then multiplying it by 100. Whichever way, we can even come up with a methodology. If your gut instinct's telling you that your retention's too low, well, let's definitely look at it. Our system is amazing when it comes to helping people perform under pressure, right? So hear me out here. So when your team, the dynamics, is performing under pressure, it drives the mechanics. What's happening a lot is that this pressure, people aren't understanding how to work with their pressure points, and then they just kind of go, I'm gapping it. Like, so internal pressure from the business, doing the job right, 100%. External pressure, cost of living, mortgage, whatever, stresses, kids, family, health, it's leading to this kind of pressure cooker. And what I'm seeing a lot of is either fight, flight response, so FOF, or an immobilized freeze response, as opposed to a safety aspect, which is where that kind of whole, what is the team tribe vibe like, to create that safety feeling, or feeling of safety and comfort. So external pressure impacts the work, impacts the retention. When people feel too much of that pressure, they're like, I'm gapping it. Hence why the dynamics conversation is so pertinent to have. Because remember, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad environments, especially also if you've got high achievers who are being dragged down by the lowest common denominator. So let's change that environment so that overwhelm can become something different. We can turn it into something different, which I'm going to show you. People are overstretched. They're perhaps picking up slack for staff members that have left and haven't been replaced. So they kind of feel a bit used. That's what I'm getting from on the ground. They're definitely time poor. So you want to tell them about mindfulness. You want to tell them about their stress response. You want to say to them they need to relax, but they're like, dude, I have no time. And it's just this kind of cycle that continues and continues. And that's where the retention goes out the window, because they go, it's too much pressure. I'd rather go get a job that just is really easy and has no responsibility, because I don't actually know how to manage my overwhelm. I am overstretched. I don't know how to do that. I'm time poor. My team leader is not checking in with me with regard to that. They're just focusing on the mechanics. My retention, cheers. Yeah. So if that's making any, giving you any clarity, utilize the next few minutes to do a little bit of an impact analysis. How does overwhelm, or what have you seen perhaps overwhelm show with regard to mental health currently within your team, or even yourself? So if you're this constant state of overwhelm, I mean, you get to work and you're already, you know, you've holding your breath, you feel swamped, your brain feels foggy, clouded, you're ratty, you just feel like there's no capacity. So I'm often hearing from people in the workshops is that their bandwidth is really low, that their desire is like, nah, I'm out of here. And they're kind of hovering on a bit of burnout. You know, burnout's lurking. Should the challenges just increase a little bit more, then the proverbial might hit the fan. What is time poorness doing on their productivity? You know, there's a really interesting statistic that people spend up to 6 weeks 6 weeks of their working year on finding information. So number one, there's a mechanics problem there, right? But what is time poorness doing to their productivity? Do they need to get an hour back a day or an hour or 2 hours that they can actually do the strategic planning that they need to do? What is the culture around busyness in the office? What are people saying around the water cooler with regard to how much of their, how much time they actually have in their day? How much are they spending on meetings? So what are you seeing? And then lastly, what is the overstretchedness part of that triangle doing to relationships? Are they in big debt with regard to their co-workers, people, perhaps their people at home? How is that overstretchedness impacting them, and especially around relationships? Because that's one of the first things that kind of niggles the most under pressure. And then when people go, oh, I'm weighing these things up, it's just not worth it on my mental health. It's not worth it with regard to my time, my body, and it's not worth it with regard to the relationships that are really, under the hilt. And then you get this kind of quiet quitting that's happening. You get people whose productivity is just like bare minimum. And what we want to replace it with is resilience. I know it's like a buzzword that's out there. But when you've got great cornerstones and great coaching methodologies, great success principles that people can fall back on when the going gets tough, then that resilience piece is all of a sudden kind of, it's heightened, it's uplifted. Because I can't stand in front of you here and say to you that the challenges of the world, the pressures of the world are not going to go away. They are. They're going to come in different shapes or forms. So if we build a really good platform through this thing called resilience, well, then it's going to definitely impact the team chemistry. The team are actually organically going to start having each other's backs. They are going to be able to have those genuine conversations where they can give feedback to somebody, say, mate, I'm picking up a lot of the slack for you. I get it, but it can't go on forever. When a team has the ability to say those things without it being a bullying claim, without it being, oh, you're being unfair, you're gaslighting me, then you've got really great chemistry. Chemistry goes up, retention goes up. And then self-care. I am a big, big proponent of self-care. Within the workspace, we look at sleep habits, we look at hydration, we look at what is HRV doing? We want this machine to really be at its prime, because when it's at its prime, people are at their prime, and then they want to stay, So again, look forward, going to 2024. I am a big proponent of living in the now. It is always good as a business leader, a business owner, to have a look at what perhaps could be on the horizon for 2024. I mean, we need a crystal ball to do this. Are the challenges high? Like I said, I can't ever say that the challenges won't be there, but are the challenges high? If they are high, what are those strategies like with regard to chemistry, self-care, resilience? If those strategies are high and you've got good levels, so here's the challenges, that's the level of challenges, you've got good chemistry, you've got good self-care, you've got good mindset, you've got good mental resilience. Oh, now I can actually, I can jam. If there's high challenges, but there are low strategies, look, there's the gap. And that's when the retention really starts to go out the window. So I trust this is useful. Our program is called the Elite Edge, where we look into the mindset, we look into recovery, we look into the relationship. So if we had to just zoom out for 1 second for this call, or zoom in, should I say, and we're looking at relationships, because through 12 years of experience, relationships make the world go round, especially at work. If you're spending a lot of time at work, I know people are doing hybrid stuff. How do you build the dynamic if there's hybridness? Hybridness, is that a word? So let's look, magnify relationships. Let's go and give you something with regard to communication. First thing that we share with people is the conversation tree. They start to plot who they have relationships with in work, what level of conversation level are these relationships at, and who do they need to develop? Because at the pinnacle, whether it be that way or downwards, is the ability to have real, robust, honest conversations. It's amazing to have that. But when you don't have the foundation, when there's only kind of a grunt and nod, well, then the conversation tree ain't going to happen, which then means the relationship side of things is really struggling. And then when that external pressure comes on, the mindset falters, the recovery kind of starts to wobble, and people go, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay. Remember, download the workbook if you'd like it. There's a lot more that we share with regard to these kind of thinking around the dynamics. If engaging and retaining your team is on your agenda for 2024, if you want to support people that you spent a lot of time, effort, energy in, and want to have this kind of dynamic that really is fueling as opposed to draining, have a look at those three, which one needs a bit more attention. And if you would like to book in a quick team temperature check where we have a call that's really robust around these three elements, we can pinpoint really quickly how to get you going. Have a super day. Thanks for your time. Bye.